I love Mel Brooks movies. Perhaps the same reason why I like South Park and Family Guy. Because nobody is safe in it. Do you remember The History of the World Part 1, if you've seen that? One of my favorite scenes is him being Moses going up to the top of the mountain, and he has 3 tablets, and he is coming down, and he says, "Here are your 15 and 1 drops," and oops, 10 commandments from God. You always wonder what those other 5 were. And you know, I think that we, as generally, as good human beings, as Christians, try to live our lives to the best of our ability in God and trying to keep the commandments. You know what are some of the commandments?
Thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not kill. Has anybody in here actually killed somebody? I'm talking about in the military, but have you? No? Not intentionally? Maybe mentally sometimes. Maybe there's a few people who you want it to, but... Okay, what's another one?
Thou shalt not steal.
Thou shalt not steal. Bryce, you are 2 for 2 right now. Maybe not. Just honor your father and your mother. Were you always that way when you were a kid? Maybe to this day. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Have you missed church sometimes, people? What about this big one? You shall have no other gods before me. You shall have no other gods before me. I can guarantee that every person in this congregation today has some other gods other than God. Oh, I see your face. You're like, no, that's impossible. Okay, think about it. How many of you are all the time addicted to these things? Or your iPad, or your computer. You don't have one. Magda, we can work on that. How many of you spend hours in front of the TV? How many of you engross yourself so much in work that your family is neglected? Maybe you have the god of greed, that you want more and more, and more's never enough. Maybe you have the god of power, that you want more power, to be more in control. Maybe you have the god of thinking you're better than everybody else. Or maybe you have the god of thinking you're worse than everybody else. Well, I'm going to tell you a very easy way for you when you get home today to figure out exactly who your gods are. And it involves 2 things. Go home, and if you have the old-fashioned checkbook, open up your checkbook and see who you write your checks to. Or, if you're like me, I put everything on the credit card for my miles. You know I like to travel. And you can see they have very clearly where I spend my money. Now I'm going to give to us the fact that we live in a very expensive part of the U.S. So, I'm going to give you the God of your house and the God of the taxes. We can't get by with that. I mean, you know, it's something you're going to have, we all have to do it. But I'm talking about the other stuff, where you really look and you can see what your priorities are. Are you spending more on entertainment budget than most things? Are you spending more money on going out to eat than anything else? Are you spending more money on booze? Where is the big chunk of your money going? Bills. But the bills are all for certain things. Yeah, I know about doctors. Today we hear Jesus talking about talents. Talents don't make much sense. When we think the word talent, we're thinking, you know, the choir singing. It's a unit of measurement of a currency. Figure 1 talent, 15 times your average wage. So imagine you were given 15 times your average wage at one point and told to do something with it. Now, I don't expect anybody to give you that. And I don't expect you to win the lottery, but if you do, please remember your church. But the whole thing is, God has blessed you and me with many abundance of blessings. Compared to the vast majority of the world, you and I are wealthy. Did you have a place to sleep last night? Do you have food in your refrigerator? Unless you don't cook and you only order out. Do you have heat on? Do you have clothes? Do you have safety? See, one of the joys about being a Christian is we really believe in the fact that we are created in the image of God, and that image is good. And to take it a step farther, all that we have in our life belongs to God. Because no matter how hard you try, you're not going to be able to take it with you. The Egyptians learned that too well. Over the past few weeks, we've been reading some things in the bulletin about Christian stewardship, being responsible for our gifts of our time, our talent, and our treasure. And, you know, it's amazing how many clergy don't even want to talk about money. Because they said, ooh, well, money's such a personal issue. But Jesus talked about money an awful lot. And for me as a priest, I can only talk about myself and my family. When I first started out, giving a gift to the church was like, okay, maybe $1 will work in the plate. Of course, it's a small church. If you were raised Roman Catholic, how many raised Roman Catholic? $1 in the plate, or maybe $5 in the plate, right? You don't even think about it. You got 4,000 people coming on a Sunday. But as I became older and grew in my own understanding of the gifts that God has blessed me with, I actually started every year looking at our income and trying to look at a proportion of our income to give back to God, to the church. A few years ago, we made the leap to move up to a tithe, which is 10%. And now we're actually above a tithe. And the reason why we give, and I'm vestry members and treasurer and warden, forgive me, I honestly don't give a hoot about the budget. What I'm concerned about is that individual gifts to God is about one's discipleship and living with God. It's what is your priority in your life. And our giving is a clear sign if God is truly our God, or those other things that we know are binding us. Now, I am grateful and blessed because I know when I give, it enables us in this church to do some wonderful things. To have our great programs for our children. For when people are sick or have other needs, for some good pastoral care. To be able to have help for seniors or comfort for those who are dying, or provide space for groups such as AA. And to be a place that no matter who you are, you can come into this community and be treated like a child of God. And if you've been to some churches, that's not always the case. So on this day where we hear about talents, my question for you, you and your family to ponder, who really is or are your gods? And if you need to make some adjustments, it's never too late. Amen.
Amen.